Well, good morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky, and you're listening to the Early Bird Special on the inaugural Wild Thing Wednesdays.
Wild Thing.
We'll tell you what that is all going on today. Sparky, what do we got today, my friend?
Well, we got a little bit of everything. It is Wild Thing Wednesday. NFL rules. We'll break those down. We'll hear some veterans talking about the rule changes. We will talk about some wild stories. We'll also talk about those torpedo bats.
Again. Nobody can stop talking about these things, man. I heard some kid this morning say that if you allow the torpedo bat, then put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame today.
Well, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, he should be, but not for the reasons he's saying.
We'll talk NBA playoffs, NBA crazy set of games last night.
Absolutely.
We'll get into those and much more, but we'll start the show off with some sad news. The passing of Val Kilmer.
Batman
passed with pneumonia, as the family reports. Iceman.
Well, he was suffering from throat cancer for a long time, and he's
had a tough, probably 11, 12 years.
Can we all agree right now the greatest Doc Holliday?
Yes.
1,000%.
Yes.
I'll be your Huckleberry, and I don't care what Scott Cox says. It's Hucklebearer, not Huckleberry, but he said it that way, so it is what it is.
But not the best Batman.
No. Not even close. No.
But
that's not his fault, though.
I liked him in Jim Morrison in the Doors movie.
Yeah,
that was
fantastic. He played Jim Morrison perfectly. But I mean, like the Batman movies, I guess you can't necessarily when you're comparing him against Michael Keaton, I mean, come on. Like Christian Bale really has a hard time measuring up to Michael Keaton, in my opinion.
And that reminds me, there's a place downtown LA that you can see the original or all of the Batman suits. And I didn't know until a couple months ago that Michael Keaton had custom Michael Jordans, Batman Jordans that he wore while he was filming Batman. But yes, rest in peace, Val Kilmer. That did
hit us. I got a text last night while doing my notes from a friend who was essentially crying about it, and she was in tears. All I could say is, that's it. I got to watch Tombstone.
Yes.
That's it. Like,
Give me any reason to watch it again.
I don't know why I do that, but when it comes to actors and stuff like that, I like to celebrate their life by watching my favorite. Like I'm going to tell you this right now. My favorite movie of all time, for people who are wondering, I know none of you care, but for people who are wondering, Gladiator, 1,000%.
Really?
Best movie ever created, in my opinion. 1,000.
Gladiator?
And I know everybody's making fun of me too. There's no such thing as 1,000%. If you went to Garces, there's such thing as a 1,000%. I will not expand on that. But when it comes to that, when we finally lose Russell Crowe, knock on wood, I'm going to watch that movie for a month straight. That's just what I do.
Did you see the second one?
Yes, not a fan.
No?
Not a fan at all.
Okay, I didn't watch it because I figured.
Honestly, it is another in a long line of sequel movies that we're getting in this generation that no one asked for, that are coming about a decade too late. I am not putting Happy Gilmore 2 in that category, though. Just throwing that out there. No.
That's coming out, what, later next month?
Absolutely.
You already.
Oh, I'm ready. MJF is playing his son. If you don't know who that is, it's an all-elite wrestling wrestler, probably one of their best ones. He's a fantastic talent. Can't wait to watch that. Plus, it's Happy. Who hates Happy Gilmore?
I guess those last.
Shooter McGavin's back, baby. Shooter.
I saw there's a lot of cameos in that movie.
Yes, there are. There's going to be a ton. But yeah, no, it is a very, very sad day to lose Val Kilmer. Again, battles with cancer. It's another example and another lesson for all of us to go to your doctor, get yourself checked, get your numbers, all of that stuff, because this could be in you as well. You never know. You have to go get checked before something bad like this happens, and you are as well with Val up in heaven, because that is not what you want at all. But Sparky, let's move over to a little bit more sports news. The NFL owners are done with their rule proposals, I guess you could call them. The tush push has been tabled, as we said yesterday, along with the playoff seeding proposal that the Lions put together, potentially getting rid of division winners, getting home field advantage in the first week. But there
was only one that was rejected, correct?
Yes, only one that was rejected, and we honestly, I think we on this show and pretty much everybody listening knew this was not going to pass, but it was the other ones the Lions proposed, which would be getting rid of 15-yard first down penalties on defensive holding and illegal contact. Yeah. So
Good luck.
Good luck with that, Don.
Yeah, and we are the early bird special, so you can call or text in anytime, 661-842-2000, streaming live at espnbakersfield.com and video streaming at the early bird special on YouTube. So feel free to jump in. So going back to the rules. So we will get deeper into the tush push because it seems like that is the sports headline for pretty much. That's all I heard about yesterday. Between that and torpedo bats.
That's all people have been talking about in baseball. We'll get to that in a second.
They didn't talk about the crazy basketball games that were last night. They didn't talk about the Final Four. All I heard about was torpedo bats and other teams shopping for them. The other ways to customize a torpedo bat for different batters. The tush push. So why don't we take a break a little bit early, because we got plenty to talk about these NFL rules. And not only that, but the playoff seedings, which I'm starting to think the more I read into it, the more I heard about it from other players, other coaches.
Are you jumping on board here?
I think I'm swapping back.
Are you really?
Yeah, I think they're gonna change it.
I mean, no, I agree with you, especially with the fact that they tabled it. Definitely tells me that Goodell and all of them are considering it and will most likely be politicking for it. But we'll get into that on the other side of the break. Let's go pay some bills, Sparky.
Yes, we are the early bird special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Oh, it's always a good day when you can wake up with corn.
Of course.
Not the song I thought we'd be playing.
No, and I cleaned that up.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Spark, let's get into this, man. I mean, the NFL owners' proposals from yesterday that were voted on. I mean, we talked about it a lot yesterday, but we finally have at least the majority of the proposals done. I know two of them have been tabled. One was denied. The rest of them were all accepted. Most of them were actually pretty good suggestions, though, from the teams this year.
Yeah,
So
which we'll get into the other ones, but the number one topic all around the headlines, like we said, was the tush push.
absolutely.
Every show I heard, every Sports Center, they led with the tush push.
Well, I mean, again, it's one of those things that is it legal? Is it not legal? Is it a football play? Is it a rugby play? I mean, I've heard a spread of thoughts about this play, but I mean,
I mean, it seems like all the plays, which players get pushed
right.
and pulled by other players, seems to be the direction they're going. And I we went back and forth with this yesterday, so I'm just going to leave it up to Roger Goodell to kind of break down where they're at with this vote.
Yeah, listen, the discussion on the tush push was very good. It was, we showed a lot of data, a lot of questions from the clubs, a lot of discussion about it. I think there are safety issues that are being considered in that case. We have very little data from it, but it's beyond data. There's also, there's the mechanism of injury that we study, that type of thing that leads us to show the risk involved with a particular play or particular tackle. So those are things that we did discuss. I do think there's a lot of discussion about going back to the previous rule, back to pre-2004. The reality of it is I think that's makes a lot of sense in many ways because I think it expands it beyond just that single play.
So 2004, I'm assuming, is when they had the rule that you can't push a teammate across the goal line, much like in college. Which, again, that seems to me to be the logical answer to curb everybody's problems with this play. If you just can't make it a scoring play, I don't know about you, but that's just my thoughts.
I mean, pretty much. I heard other thoughts on it yesterday. There obviously this is going to be a ongoing thing until the vote in May.
Naturally,
But I heard other players where maybe they break it down where each team can only do it once per half, which I think is getting too calculated with the play of football. The other one is they maybe only let you do it in goal line situations. So teams, which once again, it's almost getting too calculated with how people can make their play calls.
So it'd be the exact opposite, technically, of what I just said.
Yeah.
You can't use it in. But again, I think the biggest problem is the scoring aspect of it. If you get it done on 4th and 2, that's not that big of a deal. Stop them in the next 3 plays. But if you have a guy in 3rd down, I mean, for instance, I should use an example here. Jalen Hurts last season had 13 rushing touchdowns with this play, essentially. They were all goal to go. Some of them were rolled out, but it doesn't matter. It was usually around this play. 14 in total, 13 of them came from this play. That's a pretty big skew. So, in my personal opinion, I think that the most logical situation that you go about this to, again, curb everybody's issues with it, just make it a non-scoring play. It makes it easy to go through. I mean, you can easily use it during the game still. Why put a limit on how many times you can use it? It doesn't make sense.
So let me hear what you think about this. I also heard another radio host discuss maybe it'll be kind of like a special teams play where you have to tell the ref, okay, we're lining up in a tush push formation, and that allows the defense to adapt to a different formation for the defense, which I don't think changes anything because they all know that it's coming.
No, and that's the other
It's
thing
not
I'm
like
thinking
it's
about.
just some secret play.
Yeah, it's not a trick play like Wildcat was, so you know what's coming out of it. You're just lining up and pushing. However, though, I was thinking about this last night because this play is a rugby play, 1000%. If you've ever watched rugby, you know this is a rugby inspired situation. So why not have a defense that's also rugby inspired?
Exactly.
So if you do have that situation of, okay, you have to go up and essentially like an offensive lineman declare that you are eligible, but this time you walk up, the quarterback walks up and says, hey, we're going to push it. And then that gives the defense a chance to lock arms, get all in a line, and essentially here we go. Now we're playing rugby. Who can actually push the other? And that, in my opinion, would make it a little more fair. But again, putting the limitations on the play itself just kind of seems dumb.
But you see what it opened.
Yeah.
This whole conversation now they're looking at options of maybe a team can only do it once per drive.
Right.
Maybe it's a whole different formation that you have to report to the refs before lining up, which is just silly. And the other option is you can only do it to goal. It's not something that you can run with on third or fourth and short. And the other thing is do they just pull or make it a penalty if somebody is pushed or pulled?
Right.
So, I mean, there's so many different formations and different ways that they can do it. I've heard other coaches discuss, whether they oppose or just don't care about it.
Right.
The number one thing is, the Packers coach, Matt LaFleur, and this is what he had to say and why he opposes it.
When you look at the play, I would say I don't think it's a great football play. It's more of a rugby play. Some of the injury concerns, we just want to kind of get out in front of that, be a little bit more proactive than that.
And even though you guys ran it a few times, like with the tight end.
Yeah, certainly. We do it too. I mean, but we're going to adjust, to whatever the rules may be. And if it doesn't go through, it doesn't go through. But we're always constantly trying to look at everything. I think when you look at player safety, I think that's at the forefront of it should be at the forefront of everybody's mind in this league.
Were you involved in the actual writing of it and the drafting of the proposal?
No, we got people that can do that are a lot smarter than I am.
Well, of course, he had nothing to do with it. But
all I hear from that was we couldn't do it, so we don't want it on the team.
Exactly.
That's it. Then I love whoever that reporter was. Kudos to you for calling him out on it too. Sitting there saying, "Oh, we're worried about the safety of the players," even though you did it a couple times with Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
No, we're worried about Tucker. We don't want to run the play, but we ran the play about a couple times just to see if we can make it work. Shut up.
So one of the things is it looks like 16 teams supposedly were opposing the vote. And then there was another 10 teams that weren't ready to vote for it. Supposedly, that's why they tabled it.
What I heard was it was a 16-16 split.
Really?
Essentially is where we're at here. Well, and actually, no, I'm sorry. I think that was for the playoff rules. I apologize.
What I read was 16 teams, wanted to ban it.
Yes.
10 teams weren't ready to vote for it,
because they're all using it them dang selves.
Exactly. And it seems there's not enough data. That's what seems to be the answer to most people that aren't ready to go on air and say, I oppose it.
Well, honestly, it's the only argument they have at this point, because the biggest argument against it is the safety of the players thing that both Matt LaFleur, McDermott in Buffalo, a lot of these coaches are echoing. Again, like I said yesterday, I echo the sentiments of Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans. It's hard to be mad at a team that's just better than you at a play. That's essentially what this is people are just mad at the Eagles for being better at a play than them, and they can't figure it out themselves. But at this point, there is no data. That's what everybody keeps saying. That's what everybody keeps stressing. They've been analyzing this since 2023 when they really started using the play a lot. There is no data that supports that injuries happen on this play. In fact, the more and more I think about it, the more I watch the Eagles this year, there were no injuries during that play at all this season. I don't believe.
No, and even Kelsey had said when he ran it that it wasn't something that
they were worried
about. It was
a
health issue, except the center.
Right. And he wasn't necessarily even worried about it, even though he hated the play.
He said he hated it. It was bad on his knees.
Yes. And he said it a million times. But what play isn't bad on your knees when you're an offensive lineman?
Especially when you're a center.
Exactly. So it's like at this point right now, there's no data supporting the injury clause, which again, I was on that board in our first episode. You can go back and watch the video from 2 days ago. I was one of those guys who said, nah, dude, you're sacrificing players. This is a bad idea. But then I did a little more research into it.
So where are you sitting at?
I say keep it.
Keep it?
I say keep it. And again, I say keep it, but go back to the 2024 rules that you can't push your guy over the end zone. That's it.
And so do you allow the defense to jump over?
Yes. Oh, 1,000. Yeah, 100%.
Just have to time it
Yes.
right, not unlike Kansas City?
Time it right, just like Troy Polamalu, and jump over. That's exciting. That's why I
Yes.
don't understand with the referees sometimes, especially last year. I think I said it was the Chiefs, but I think it was actually the Commanders who had that situation happen where they were
kept
trying
jumping
to stop
over.
them. Yeah, and they kept jumping over, and
Yeah,
they
like
were going
7 or
to
8 penalties in a
award
row.
a touchdown for it, and that is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Because all the defense is trying to do is make a play, and if your offense is going to essentially push your quarterback on top of the bodies of your offensive linemen
how
to
else
get
are you gonna
3 or
stop
4
it?
yards, exactly. How are you supposed to stop that?
So let's go to the guy that doesn't want it banned, which is the Eagles coach Nick Sirianni.
Yes.
I know what the data says, and I know how we coach it, and we don't coach a push play any different than we coach a quarterback sneak play. Yeah, again, the injury data says what it says, and we coach it the exact same, whether somebody's pushing or whether somebody's not pushing. I always want to have players' health first and foremost in our mind, and so you have to trust the doctors and stuff like that on those scenarios. But you always want to do what's best for the players first and foremost.
So what do you guys think as listeners? Are you with verdict with keeping it, or are you kind of you're kind of just sick of it? And I'm a Dolphin fan, so we'll go back to the Wildcat. The Dolphins ran that for a full year, and no one could stop it.
Nope.
And other teams, New England, tried it and didn't pull it because they didn't have those pieces. But I mean, I still see teams like Baltimore with Derrick Henry. That's the type of guy you want to run it. But they're doing it the opposite way, is because the NFL stepped in and changed the rule where the other running back, which was Ricky Williams, Ronnie would run the Wildcat. He put Ricky in motion, and linebackers were scrambling because they didn't know if they had to watch Ricky on the right or, Ronnie up the middle or to the left. So the NFL tweaked it where now you can't have a guy in motion when you hike the ball. So it eliminated pretty much what the success rate was with that play. Now with this tush push, is it going to be the same thing where they take out the tush or they take out the pushing and pulling? And
well, at that point,
does that eliminate the play? Because now you're just looking at a quarterback sneak.
Exactly. And that's my point. So that's why if you keep the play, you have to just limit it to not being able to be a scoring play, in my opinion. But that is what it is. We'll see how that all wraps up. And at this point, too, again, you also have to take into account the guys who are sitting here complaining about the injury part of all of this run it just as much as the Eagles do. McDonald did it just as much in Buffalo with Josh Allen. Obviously, we heard Matt LaFleur get checked because they did it with Tucker Kraft. These teams do it too. So take that into account as well, that it doesn't make sense. But if you do oppose it, let us know why. Give us an actual example. And if it is injury problems, then that's fine. But if I want to hear some other examples of why you guys think this play should not be a thing in the football world anymore.
You can do that by texting or calling in at 661-842-2000. Let's take this quick break and we'll get back into. I have some former athletes and hosts that oppose the other rule changes, and a nice little insight on what they think with these kickoff rules, if that actually will bring some excitement to the football. So we'll see right here on the Early Bird Special, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Oh, I don't know how you're picking songs that I can't stomp on Disturbed.
You don't like Disturbed?
No. I love Disturbed. That's
Oh,
why I
okay.
can't talk.
Oh, if my wife's listening, that was her birthday present this year. I've seen Disturbed probably 6 to 7 times over the years.
I got to see them when they came here.
Which time?
The Rockstar concert, like what, back in 2000 something.
No,
I'm dating myself. I'm sorry. Hold on. You're listening to the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky.
You know, will age you is that first album. That's their
God.
20th anniversary tour.
Oh God.
So, we've gone to the Aftershock tour probably 7 or 8 times, and we were waiting and waiting. Hopefully, the Disturbed would land on that festival, and it never happened. So this year they're playing in LA for the 20th anniversary. So I snagged some tickets for her birthday. So she's pumped. I think she's got a little crush on the singer.
Mm.
And CM Punk, which is probably another reason why I don't like the guy, but we'll get back into these NFL rules.
Oh, don't hate on Phil Brooks. Come on.
The NFL is altering some rules. So which ones we'll start with? Which ones were denied?
The ones that were denied, obviously, well, the only one that was denied was the Lions' proposal to get rid of essentially first down defensive penalties for offenses for defensive holding and illegal contact. So you would not have the automatic first down for that or for those two penalties anymore. That did not pass. The NFL owners, I don't know what the number was on that, to be honest with you, but I can only imagine most of the owners looked
31 to 1,
laughed and said, "Thanks, Dan," and walked away. So the ones that actually passed are, let's see, we get K-balls, what they're calling the kickball, which is going to be a prepped football for special teams, just like the game ball for the NFL quarterbacks. You're going to have pre-made kickballs for the kickers now. Yep, that's a thing that has been asked for a long time.
Is it a dodgeball?
No, it is not.
What are the 5 Ds of dodgeball?
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
I told you, Ghostface. You would know that.
Nah, dude, that's one of the best movies ever made, too. One of those quotable movies, along with Step Brothers, in my opinion. But the next one, touchbacks, are now going to be set at the 35-yard line. Now, initially, when I heard this as well, and I'm sure a lot of you thought the same thing, that sounds dumb.
Yes.
Why are we doing that? Why give the kickoff team even more yardage and just let the offense have an easier shot at a touchdown? Well, this actually is smarter than people actually realize. So Dan Rizzi, the guy who is the head of the new kickoff rule,
former Dolphins special teams coach,
yes, and former head coach of the Saints, yes.
Where is he now? Denver?
I believe he's in Denver now as their special teams coordinator.
Of course.
He has proposed this because now everybody was still kicking the ball out of the end zone last season.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. We were still getting a lot of touchbacks, and the kickoff rule wasn't really being seen. So the idea is you can make that more of a penalty. You give 5 more yards to the kick return team. It's going to cause more kickers to strategically kick the ball up and try to get the returners under the 30-yard line, obviously making it easier for their defenses to actually get the ball back. So at this point right now, it could create a lot more plays and create a lot more, I guess, exciting football for us to enjoy.
Yeah, that's exactly what Tom Telesco had to say.
To me, the biggest thing that I've seen so far today on the different rule proposal changes is going to be the kickoff, with now having to touch back to the 35. So, as we saw this year, I mean, returns were up to almost 30%, but still a lot of teams had the philosophy just to kick it deep in the end zone and we'll play defense from the 30. Now that comes out to the 35, I think you're going to see a majority of kicks come down in the field of play, which means almost every kickoff is going to be returned. And I think that's going to be a big difference. I mean, the teams that have really good kickoff returners, and probably at this point, you're going to need more than one. That's going to be a big part of field position, and then covering kicks is going to be very important. So I think that's going to be a pretty major change as we look into next year.
So do you think teams will start to adapt and put 2 of their fastest guys out there?
We're going to start getting the Tyreek Hills and the, I can't remember a lot of these guys. Turpin, most likely, will be back there a lot. Just for people who understand, last year, the return rate for kickoffs was 32.8%, says Dan Rizzi. Their projected for 2025 is somewhere between 70 to 75% return rate. I don't need to explain to you how math works, so that's easily double the amount of what you saw last season. And for those of you who are wondering, well, what about the concussion situation? Concussions were down 43% in the NFL since 2023.
Well, it definitely helped with the alignment, with the safety zone, and people not running full speed before the ball was even there. So I also think, which another thing I was reading last night is they expect not only that they moved the caution zone or something, they
Right.
added 2 players or something like that, but if you're a longtime football player, it's supposed to be 3 phases
Supposed to be.
of football: offense, defense, and special teams. So I'm kind of excited to finally have the special teams back. I still don't think they've helped anything with the punt return.
No, not yet, but I think that is coming.
You think that's
I
coming?
think that'll be coming at some point. But I'm telling you right now, the kick return, it's going to get exciting because if you really think about this new lineup and format that they have, the amount of trick plays that you could pull with this now, the reverses, all of that stuff, that'll actually work now because you won't have a ridiculous amount of guys running right at your returner as he catches the football. There's going to be a lot of different things that you can do on the special team side of this to, utilize more plays, get guys more excited, and really put more points on the board. So I don't see a problem with this play or with this rule change whatsoever.
Only thing I could say with the with special teams, they need to do something with the onside kick.
Yeah, we need to utilize it a little bit more. Stop only having it in the fourth quarter. Because again, much like we said with the tush push, if we're really going to limit plays in football, why are we playing football?
Exactly.
So
what was the other ones that passed?
let's see. We got 2 players can now return off of the IR if they were placed there before the rosters were reduced to 53 people. So if obviously into
camp.
the camp area, yeah, when you have 90 guys on the team, you have to shave it down to 53. If a major player on a squad ends up tearing his ACL and is put on the IR early before the roster is shaved down to 53, they can return for the playoffs. And that was actually another one of Dan Campbell's proposals with their entire injury riddled season last season.
So what happens if it's early in the season? It's still the same?
Yeah, it's still the same as if anything after the 53-man roster. If you put on the IR, you were still, I believe there are only 1 player that can return if eligible. But at this point right now, it's now 2 if it's before that motion. The Hawkeye tech will be used for first downs and replay assist. Obviously, we've been talking about that yesterday. If you are confused, replay assist is only going to be they can call the guys out in New York who are watching the game to have a flag picked up, not put down. So if anything, it'll just stop the unnecessary and really, really bad calls at plays that shouldn't have been called at all.
And do you think that'll slow down the game?
Not at all. I think that there's going to be situations where it will. Obviously, you're going to be confused once or twice when your team comes up to try to snap the ball and the referees are calling it off because they get a chime from New York says, hold on. We got to go back to this.
And I thought the same thing with the NBA because now with all the different replays, it's actually helped the game.
Absolutely. And at this point, like I said yesterday, we need more accountability for referees and umpires because it has been a big topic of conversation in fan bases for the last decade that we have been getting really, really bad officiating in a lot of these sporting events. So why not hold them accountable with guys who are going to be watching replays of every play?
And guys like Clinton Yates disagree with that.
Hey, Jimmy, what are you looking forward to next football season? I don't know, Dad. I'm 9 years old. Are you interested in what the guys are going to do on the football field for the team you root for? No, Dad. You know what I want to see? What do you want to see, Jimmy? More replays, Dad. That's why I like football. My God. This isn't that difficult. I do not need expanded replay.
I get his point. I do. I understand the worry that it's going to slow down the game, especially when other sports like baseball are doing everything they can to speed up their games. But this isn't, I don't think this isn't what he thinks it is. I think we're going to get this more of okay, he threw a holding call while they're like officiating that. We're going to get somebody real quick to look over the play and actually see if there was a holding call. You know what I mean? And then it'll come down saying, okay, you can keep the flag or you can get rid of the flag.
And I would expect it to be the more blunt ones that they're missing.
They're not going to call it if it was offsides. They're not going to chime down and say, pick that up.
Like, my only worry with that one is when it's used, because if it's the final drive with 90 seconds left and it's 3rd and long and, so-and-so throws a deep one and it clearly they had a little hold. And then they say, let's challenge that. And, so I just hope. And does it get into the details of under 2 minutes?
No, it does not get into any of the details of that, but I'm sure that will be a part of it because obviously everything is reviewed after the 2 minutes. But right now, everybody's fear of it slowing down the game, just calm down. I don't think that's going to be the case. You're just going to have to take a couple more seconds. The only thing that I could see this being an issue is that later on down the road, we're going to get fan bases claiming of cheating and that these people are doing this to, essentially rid their team of the playoff chance because, the play that should have been a PI that clearly was a PI on my television
Of course.
is a PI, but they said pick it up.
It's always going to stir up something.
Exactly. So you're going to have your issues coming or going, but at this point right now, I think it's just going to be good for the game. And again, create some accountability for referees that we've needed for a long, long time. So
because their time is probably running a little low.
And then the other one that was the one that I was very curious about was the proposed rule change from the Steelers that will allow one video or phone call with one or more of the 5 prospective free agents during the negotiation period before the formal opening of free agency. So basically, they are allowing you now to have one phone call with a top-end free agent of your choice. One of 5 top free agents of your choice. I believe you get up to 5 during this period, but you cannot schedule a meeting or anything until the actual free agency and the new season starts. So basically, this is just saying you can reach out to 5 major free agents and talk to them one time and get it set up that you can meet each other and potentially talk about a contract, but you can't have long negotiations and stuff like that.
So they're numbering them kind of like draft visits.
Right. So basically, before this, teams could only speak to one with one of the agents, the players, during that period. So you can only talk to one. This time, it's spreading it a little bit more, so you could talk to up to 5. But
I mean, if it'll help.
Again,
if it'll help anything, it's going to help some of these teams that have been penalized the last couple seasons.
Exactly. And you're going to tamp back on the tampering situation and all of that. So I think that that's probably going to help teams at least going forward and trying to figure out how they're going to build around free agency and obviously keep at least these smaller, I don't want to say small market teams because there's really no small market team in the NFL, but these smaller teams or less successful teams, at least in the running for guys like Saquon or Kirk Cousins or any of these guys that have been clearly picked up well before the free agency.
While they were still under contract.
Exactly.
And I know the league approved the OT.
Yeah, the new OT rule. Well, I'm sorry, the improved overtime rules, in my opinion.
You think it's improved?
Oh, yeah. No, allowing both sides to have a chance to score should be the case.
So it takes away the importance of the
coin flip. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, again, why are we only doing sudden death in the NFL? Since when has next score wins work in football? It works in basketball. Everybody does it on a pickup court.
So say, Philly scores first,
right,
and Kansas City was able to score again, so it just resets?
Yeah, we go again.
So it's not like, okay, well then Philly, it's sudden death.
It's just now. It's just like the overtime rules of playoffs. So if you both
unless
score,
time ends.
Yeah, unless time ends, which is honestly going to lead to more than likely more ties in overtime.
So I want to hear your opinion after you hear this from Freddie Coleman.
What are we doing? So let me get this straight. You had 60 minutes to figure this out, how to beat your opponent and vice versa.
Don't you do that,
You guys
Freddie.
go to overtime.
Don't do that.
And you had the wrong coin toss to pick that out. You can't keep a team from scoring. So now let's make sure that if they got 8 orange slices, surely you can get 8 orange slices. You know what this is? This will be like in the NBA. You make a game-winning shot, and somebody says, let's give them an extra possession to tie the game. Or in Major League Baseball, where the home team has last ups. They win the game with a game-winning home run, and somebody says, oh, my goodness, let's make sure they get one more chance to tie the game in extra innings. This is maddening to me.
All right. And then the first adage is much better than the second one.
Yes.
The NBA one is perfect. I think it's a great example of thwarting my example, but the baseball one doesn't make sense.
Yes.
You have the baseball one. That's how it works. You have yours up first, and then they go at the bottom of the ninth. That's
but
how
it just reminds me of teams like Buffalo.
Right.
I mean, okay.
Well, and Buffalo is the reason why the overtime rules got changed in the playoffs. So obviously they want to move it over to the regular season to make it more uniform. I personally don't see that much of a difference. It just allows the offenses in the NFL to actually answer, and you don't get the situations that you got in the playoffs a couple years ago with the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, where honestly, Buffalo should have won that game. But realistically speaking, they never got a chance to. So give them a chance.
Because their defense didn't stop them.
True, but that's not the offense's problem.
But it's still the
The
it's a
defense
team.
can't stop. But here's the thing. And his argument, too, of the 60 minutes to beat your team,
Mhm.
everybody has 60 minutes to beat your team.
Of
So what's
course.
the opposite direction? You're sitting there talking about one side, but you're not talking
But
about
it goes
the
right
other.
back to what I was saying. It takes the importance of a coin flip.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That was the big thing is, you get to overtime. Now it's 0-0. You got to win that coin flip or hope that your defense steps up. And if your defense steps up now, you have a second chance with
No,
you
I
get
get
your
it.
chance to score.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish they would stop tinkering with the damn game, first of all.
True.
But I could understand they're going to do this every year, and they're always going to worry
Yes.
about money. And you're expanding the game. You're getting more sponsors.
Right.
And that's the insight is it's always going to come down to money.
Well, yeah, and then obviously this offers up more opportunity potentially to sell more commercials because obviously your overtime games are going to go longer.
Just like the replays.
However, and I don't know, I can't be the only one who's thinking this right now in my head. Why are we holding football games up to a coin flip? Why? Why are we allowing a coin flip to determine who's the better football team? That's ridiculous.
Well, that's what overtime is.
No, it's no.
That's
Overtime is
overtime.
based off of just
Your
like every other
defense
school.
is
or
just as
every other
important
game.
as the offense.
Yes, I agree with that. But at the same time, that should go for both sides. Just
Yeah.
because your defense let up a score. So if we're going to say the same thing for the team who just scored on you. So if the
Exactly.
Chiefs went down and scored on the Buffalo Bills, but the Chiefs defense allowed, or I'm sorry, but the Chiefs defense allowed the Buffalo Bills offense to score. Are they just as bad?
Well, then why don't we just add a special teams effect to it and just see who can kick longest?
No, it's fair. But
I
again,
mean, if it's not the defense's fault, I mean, it's a team effort.
maybe I'm in the minority here, but I just think that pushing a entire game's ideal and who's the better team up to a coin flip is stupid.
I understand it.
And this is coming from a Falcons fan who literally just had the best quarterback of our entire franchise determined off of a coin flip. I'll tell you that story on a different day. But that's just dumb to me.
Well, I believe this will be a topic that we'll be talking about for months.
Oh, absolutely.
So keep it tuned in. We'll be debuting our Wild Thing Wednesday right after this break on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Yes, it is Wild Thing Wednesdays. Basically, what we're going to be doing in this segment is every single week we are going to bring you the wildest story we could possibly find in the world of sports from the past week. This one's a little bit cheating, though, because this one was a week ago. Okay, so bear with us a little bit here.
It was actually a lot longer than that.
No, yeah, technically it was a lot. It started a lot longer than that, but the story itself broke last week. But the first ever Wild Thing Wednesday for you guys is former NFL player LaShawn Johnson charged in an FBI's largest dogfighting bust, found with 190 pit bulls.
That is disgusting.
On his person. Now, this gets a little worse because, again, everybody knows the biggest dogfighting scandal in football was Michael Vick of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is way worse. I'm going to put that out there right now, which I think is kind of interesting because this actually, if you look at it, Johnson was also pled guilty to charges similar to this back in 2004, which was 4 to 5 years before Michael Vick got busted for his situation. Johnson was found with, again, 190 dogs destined for a cruel end, realistically, including 3 champions and 1 grand champion. And I'll explain what that means in a second. A grand champion named Hog. Yes, a dog named Hog who won 8 dogfighting matches. 8. Just to put this into perspective, to become a champ, you have to win 3. To become a grand champion, you have to win 5, apparently. Most dogs don't make it out of 1 because of how fatal these injuries that these dogs have to take during these fights. Michael Vick, back in 2009, spent 23 months in prison for essentially killing 5 to 7 of his dogs that were in a ring that he was funding. This guy, LaShawn Johnson, was literally the head of a massive dog fighting and breeding ring in which he took these 190 dogs and most likely was probably the perpetuator and breeder of about what would you think, Spark? At least a 1,000 by this time.
Vince McMahon at dog fighting.
Exactly.
That's insane.
This guy was breeding pit bulls in his hometown in Oklahoma, sending them out to people around the dogfighting community just because he had winners. And if you don't think this guy was doing it in the NFL when he played for the Cardinals, you're absolutely nuts. LaShawn Johnson was a former running back in the early 2000s, late 90s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember a whole ton of his career. I won't lie to you. He wasn't a great running back.
I don't remember him.
But realistically speaking, Sparky, what are your thoughts on this dude? Because
I like disgusting.
I'm a big dog guy,
Me
so this
too,
is
and
not okay.
I've had pit bulls my whole life, so I don't understand why it's always got to be the pit bulls, but you know,
that's the cruelty of it too. I love pit bulls. Every pit bull that I've met and my friends own has been the biggest sweetheart in the world.
They always get a bad rap, and it's all
so
just like any animal.
Same with Rots.
It comes to the owners.
Rottweilers are some of, oh man, if I could show you this dog Hercules that my buddy Rudy, his parents own. I don't know if Herc is still on this earth. I hope he is. This is the biggest Rottweiler Bull Mastiff mix I've ever met in my life, and he is the biggest just teddy bear.
Yeah,
he'll just walk right up to you as if he's like the smallest dog in the world. Just put his head on your lap and just sit there waiting for you to pet him. He's the cutest thing in the world.
I had a blue pit that I had. We bottle fed him. I found him in a hole down off Panama, and he was just the biggest baby. He slept in my hoodie for the first month or so, and then my dad adopted him, and he was our donkey. He looked just like Donkey from Shrek, and big old blue eyes. It was one of the best dogs I've ever had, and they get a bad rap. And it'll go back to the Michael Vick thing and how people were so upset about the Michael Vick thing. And he, like you said, he got 23 months in prison, had to pay, I believe, $3.6 million in fines. And you know, luckily for him, he learned his lesson. He paid the debt and is back to at least being a tax-paying citizen. But this guy, 190 animals, and by the time of what I've read, it looks like he's not even going to get close to what Michael Vick got.
Well, no, he's facing 5 years right now. Vick only had to take 24 months.
They're saying that this was out of the time frame, so they can't get him for
No,
half of
'cause
those?
I argue that he's still doing it, so clearly not. It's not at the time frame. He has 190 dogs in this kennel that he got busted
That's
in.
disgusting.
And mind you, after looking at this, Johnson played for the Packers, Cardinals, and Giants in his 6-year career in the 90s. This guy, it's just gross. It's terrible. This entire type of situation is terrible.
Put
And
the man in a kennel.
absolutely, put the man in the kennel right next to all 190 of those dogs, and let's see how long he can fight.
Feed him in a bowl. Just put wet food in a
just
bowl for him.
terrible, man. But again, this is another example of just things that can't be happening in this world. Kash Patel, the new FBI director, said that animal cruelty cases are a stepping stone to organized crime, and they will not be allowed, obviously. And this
Agreed.
is just incredible. So if you guys know of any other wild thing stories that you'd like to share with us, text them in. Feel free. We love all of that. We would love to share them as well.
Even if it's positive.
No, we wouldn't want more positive. I have another wild story here, but it's not necessarily shocking. So we'll get to that here a little bit. It looks like Pat McAfee might be in some more legal trouble.
Oh boy.
I
And
love
you see
Pat.
Mick Foley got in a car
Mick
accident
Foley
yesterday. The
got
first
hurt.
thing I read, I thought it was an April Fool's joke because he was standing next to the
the-
mangled vehicle.
But see, that's the beauty of it. I was going to bring up is what better picture of Mick Foley, the man who is the hardcore king of wrestling, just got
Exactly.
into a massive car wreck. And what does he do? He's standing outside of his car as if nothing's wrong, holding his finger up and just looking like he's having the time of his life as he always does.
I was
So,
expecting like some tacks or something in his forehead.
I mean,
and
the
some-
man was thrown off of a chain cage
By the
onto a
dead man.
table and had his tooth pushed through his skull. So I think he
Yes.
could survive anything.
Well, that was insane, and I'm glad he's all right. You know, me and Burdick got to meet him when our buddies over at
Fantastic
Collectibles
individual.
brought him in. He's an awesome dude. I'm glad he's all right. And
Well wishes to you and your family, sir.
yes.
But we got to take a break and pay some bills. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick, and that is Sparky. We'll be right back. We'll talk a little bit about the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. Is Kirk Cousins on his way to Cleveland? We'll let you know. We'll be right back, right here on 101.1 FM at 12:30 a.m. ESPN Bakersfield, and streaming live on YouTube on the ESPN, or I'm sorry, on the Early Bird Special YouTube page. And welcome back. The Early Bird Special, Hour 2 on this Wild Thing Wednesday. If you missed hour one, feel free to go back to our YouTube page at the Early Bird Special. You can check out every episode and video we've done in the past. There's plenty there for you to check out. Sparky, I know we said we were going to get into this Cleveland Brown quarterback situation, but we'll shelf that for a second. We talked a lot of football already.
Thank you, Cleveland.
My friend, I have not seen anything push more news towards baseball than a bat.
Torpedo bat.
Out of Miami Tech. No, I guess where did he actually make this thing? I can't remember where he actually made this. I think he started in New York. So we'll say it's New York. We'll give Yankees the credit for this one since everybody's talking about it now. But apparently these bats have been here since 2023.
Really?
Yes, they've been around for a while. They're just now getting actual, notoriety because the Yankees have hit 17 home runs now?
Yes. After last night, through the first 4 games, amid the torpedo bat debate, the Yankees have set the MLB record with 17 homers to start the season.
And at this point right now, again, as we said the other day, all this is doing is helping baseball.
Yeah.
All this is doing is creating some heat, creating some allure to the game and making people say, hey, maybe the baseball season has a little bit of traction this year. It just started and there's a little bit of controversy. As the NBA learned, controversy pulls people in.
Yes.
And baseball needs a little bit more of some button some heads in order to pull some people in. So I personally, as I said the other day, I have no issues with these torpedo bats. They're not going anywhere. The vast majority of people that I have heard said they are not going anywhere. There's nothing illegal about it at all.
See, I've heard the opposite.
In fact, they're talking about moving it around even more. In fact, or like finding the perfect spot for you and making a bat that way.
Adapt to each player.
Exactly. Which honestly, why not? Why haven't we been doing this? This doesn't make sense that we haven't been doing this.
And why did it take so long to get here?
Exactly. I mean, again, I love the movie Moneyball.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like that was the first time that baseball really was thrown analytics in, and you really started to realize that math and baseball have a lot to do with each other.
I mean, I played baseball 14 years growing up, and we couldn't use wooden bats in the league I played.
Right. Well, you still can. I don't think you can still to this day.
I was under the impression that you couldn't customize your bats. I thought it was a set rule for all baseball.
No, not really.
And this torpedo thing is really just taken off. And now hearing that other players want to customize where the bulk of the bat would be, considering they can look at tape and where they get more hits out of maybe that changes the the hit with batters where they're kind of taking the power back. And it's not a pitching game.
Hear me out. What if baseball players start coming to the clock or to the locker rooms, to the clubs, holding a bag of clubs essentially, but they're all baseball bats? Just like a golfer, he's got 8 different baseball bats, all different barrels, just for whoever he's pitching that day. Yeah. And at this point, we could see that. But remember, in order to be able to use these bats at all, you have to send them into the MLB and they have to be okayed by the league.
Yeah, they have to be approved.
You're still going to have to go through all of the hoops. I know the Braves yesterday put in their order. The Phillies are using them already. The Twins are using them already.
I know a ton have put orders in.
Yes. The Miami Marlins, where this guy currently works, is, I believe, a couple players are already talking about using them. It's just a strategic move. That's all this is. And like I said, everything that I keep hearing about these bats aren't going anywhere. So
this is what I've heard from Michael K yesterday.
Most of the analytics push was toward pitching. And that's why the pitchers are upset when they're saying, oh, this is ridiculous and stuff like that. But everything has gone the way pitching. They've taught them how to throw harder. They've taught them better spin rates and things like that. But now this is one thing that's gone toward the hitters. And it is unusual that no one has come up with it because it is legal. And as Aaron Boone said, we try to get advantages through the margins. Let me tell you, the Yankees were not thrilled that I brought it up on the broadcast on Saturday, simply because of the fact they wanted to be, their own little secret for a while. Now, bat companies are being inundated with requests for torpedo bats. So we'll see if the rest of the league catches up.
And you know what? That is kind of funny because I was thinking that. It's like, God, just because you brought this up now, everybody's going to want a damn torpedo bat. But, it doesn't change the game at all. I know pitchers are annoyed because obviously this hurts them. But much like we said with football, all of these rules keep getting made to benefit offense, but nothing is there to benefit defense. Much like this in baseball, we need to be able to benefit both sides of the plate. And at this point, all this does is benefit the offensive side of baseball. So I think that this is just going to go forward as one of those things you have to wash away and say, well, They just beat us to the punch. Now everybody's using the bat. But again, when the more and more you watch baseball, the more you see these pitchers are throwing 100 miles an hour all the time. I mean, kids these days have never thrown faster. I went to my nephew's Little League game the other day, and we got kids throwing pretty dang good BBs already.
Yes.
Like, they're skilled. These kids are very, very skilled. And that's why I'm saying that the torpedo bat does not hurt baseball at all. All it's going to do is put it on an even playing field for batters, because as we said the first day we talked about this, it gives batters an extra second to think and react to a baseball, and anything inside is crushed. Now, vice versa, anything outside, you're going to have trouble to get to, but that's the name of the game.
You
That's
have to
baseball.
get more tape on each player when you're going up and pitching.
But
I also think there's shenanigans. So,
well, I mean,
give me a
could
reason
call
to play that.
shenanigans.
You had to
You
give
can-
me a reason to play it.
You could call shenanigans all you want, but at this point right now, it's just the Yankees being smart about it. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
And they'll put it into that quick. So
yeah, oh yeah. They'll, again, the league will do something to appease the rest of the teams, but honestly, the torpedo bat isn't going anywhere.
And I'll go back to our text from Monday. Dodger fans say they can
Matters
cheat all
not.
they want.
It matters not.
Because the World Series comes through LA.
Well, let's see what happens when you go through Philly first. But we'll get to that point when we get to that point. Baseball is getting exciting. That's a good thing. We need more eyes on baseball, because sports like baseball and the NBA are crashing in fan bases because they're not getting the fan push. I've heard more people younger than me saying basketball is a boring sport. That is ridiculous.
I've heard other people, personalities say that the game is weak because people are just shooting threes.
So
I enjoy it.
So
I
that gives
enjoy
little white boys
basketball,
like
so-
me a chance. You kidding?
I mean, the no defense,
That's the thing. That is the
that
thing.
is
That's
probably the
annoying.
only problem I see in the NBA. And I believe that starts with the coaching, not the players.
No, absolutely. And again, it's just the way the game has evolved and developed over the years. Steph Curry is a fantastic player. He just changed the game. I don't know exactly how to explain it. He was shooting so many threes that you had to keep up. So now you have to have 2 to 3 to 4 guys on your team that can shoot threes. It's
Yeah.
not just one specialist anymore.
And you got to play full court press if you're worried about it.
You have to play defense in general.
You don't just let Steph just walk up and shoot it from half court all the damn time, because he'll hit him half the time.
Yeah, he will.
But let's get into the basketball. We'll take this quick break. The
Yes.
NBA is coming. The regular season is coming to an end, so we'll get through that. And there was 3 hell of a crazy games last night that I'll break down.
The Denver Nuggets got robbed, man. I'm telling you.
It's the early bird special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Eddie, still not over this. Still not over this. He's supposed to come back next week, too. Thank you. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. That's Metallica.
Yes.
And you know what? We haven't got a chance to get into basketball very much. We're both big NBA guys. I'm a Cavaliers fan. My boy Spark is a Bulls fan. So
Yes. Don't mix that up with
we
Miami.
tolerate each other as much as we can, obviously.
Yeah.
But
there was hell of a 3 good games actually last
absolutely.
night. Timberwolves weathering Nikola 61-point triple-double in double overtime last night, and they still lose. That was insane.
Oh man. Now don't get me wrong, anytime the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets get together and play each other, especially in the playoffs the last 2 years, it is electric. But I am not I don't have a lot of faith in this Nuggets team coming into this season. There's not a lot of momentum going their way. Same with the Wolves, though. The Wolves kind of taken a step back since since moving on from Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, and I was expecting that. A lot of NBA fans that I know don't even usually start watching until after the All-Star break.
Naturally.
And with the trade deadline, I think that's what really sparked it up with all the crazy trades,
Luka going to the Lakers.
Cat, including, the Lakers. But with the Timberwolves pulling out that win, here's their coach.
It was a hell of a game by everybody, man. Everybody came in. Even, Rob's 4 minutes were super productive. Proud of the guys. Like, Denver kept trying to junk up the game with defense and matchups and stuff, and we just, had to keep figuring it out. Got down a bit, came back, got stops when we needed to, made enough big plays, and, guys really trusted each other out there. So, even to the last play where Mike runs down Westbrook, and if he doesn't do that, then there's no missed layup. So and Ant makes the kick out. So it's just we made the right plays, and we were rewarded for it. But it was certainly a tough one.
I thought for sure they were going to come back and pull that last 20 seconds of that game was just insane. And with it's just so weird to see Russell Westbrook. I never know which team he's on anymore. Ever since he's been flopping around the league.
At this
for the
point,
last
it's
5
whoever
years.
can win a chip.
Exactly.
At this point. And I mean, again, and rightfully so, much like many other NBA players, he's chasing the ring, which is the most coveted thing in the NBA. The Timberwolves coming off of a massive brawl on Sunday, too, against the Detroit Pistons, where they just got slapped with a handful of suspensions.
Did they? I didn't see that one.
Well, that game on Sunday was nuts.
I saw the fight into the crowd.
Let's see. I have the story right here. The Pistons and Wolves players that were suspended. Let's see. Isaiah Stewart of the Pistons. No surprise there. The guy's kind of the next Rasheed Wallace. Ron Holland Jr., Marcus Sasser, and let's see, Minnesota center Naz Reid and guard Dante DiVincenzo both have been were actually suspended for this game, I would assume, because it was a 1-game suspension. So that's probably why you didn't see them on the court last night, and still somehow beat their rivals of Denver in a 2 overtime absolute slobber knocker. I mean, what was the final of that one? It was like 140 to 138, something like that. It would, oh my God. Jokic dropped 61 on him. I mean, and you know what's funny? For Rudy Gobert to be a multi-time defensive player of the year and be such a defensive coveted center, he has the biggest problem with Jokic every single time they play.
And as of right now, Denver's sitting in the number 3 slot, who would play Memphis right now if it ended right now.
And they're in a different kind of a turmoil situation for them as well. So
and the Timberwolves are sitting at number 7, which they would play in the Clippers with the play-in, which is insane. But going over to Golden State, because the Warriors, ever since snagging buckets, and it's just a whole different team. And Golden State, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, they were on fire. They couldn't lose. But you look at, you rewind it a month ago where they were losing games by 40, 50 points. And we're like, is Golden, that's when the Curry talk was, is it over? Is Curry retiring? And then there was talks, is Durant coming back to Golden State next season?
If Curry retires before LeBron does, God, I have so many questions about LeBron's longevity and how he can keep this going.
I'm glad you picked that up because as of right now, Golden State and the Lakers would square off in the playoffs.
At the moment, neither of them are in the play-in tournament, right?
No, they're at 4 and 5.
Now, if neither of those teams want to be in the play-in, I don't think anybody really wants to be in the play-in this year, especially in the West.
I want my Bulls in the play-in.
Well, I mean, you guys are already set though. The East is pretty much set outside of the Raptors, and the Raptors are about 6 games behind you guys at the last spot. So I don't think they're catching up.
And once again, the Bulls would be playing Miami.
Naturally,
just like it happens.
Yeah, but this time you don't have to worry about Jimmy buckets.
Yeah,
and
but
playoff Jim.
It's that Miami culture.
Well, again, as Shannon said, and as we said on Monday, it's easy to have a culture when you have great players, and
100%.
That's kind of what the build is in Miami. Is we have great stars that just make everybody else look good. That's what Dwayne Wade did. That's what LeBron did. That's what Jimmy Buckets did. And now they're leaning on Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, who are both fantastic players out of Kentucky. I just don't know if they're going to be I'm sorry, I don't know if they're going to be enough. I shouldn't say enough to make it anywhere deep in the playoffs.
No, I think they get knocked out in the play-in personally.
Yeah.
But Steph Curry drops 52 as the Warriors win a wild one over the Grizzlies. And he had mentioned the Grizzlies
firing their head coach a couple days ago, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's hear from Steph and what he had to say about the game.
My whole career, I've never really thought that way. You have confidence, you prepare yourself, but it's never a results-based thing. It's just understanding the work you put in. I did shoot it well this morning, a shoot around, so you kind of feel good and have confidence, but you never think it's going to be a 50 night. But the first quarter was just rhythm and decisiveness and the byproduct of good preparation for this game. And then the rest kind of, you just flow off of that.
Yeah, they pulled out the win 134-125, and Curry hit 12 three-pointers in that game.
I say it again, you can't stop him. There's nothing you can do. I've watched this man his entire career, including at Davidson, and there's nobody that shoots like Steph. No one. This kid, I shouldn't even call him a kid. This guy throws up a ball and it doesn't look anything like it's going to get anywhere close to the rim, and it just falls in as if there's a magnet in it.
It almost does.
It's absurd. It's just
insane.
incredible, and that's why the game has changed, and that's also why I feel like Shaq is 1,000% right. You have to put Steph in the conversation of the GOAT now, because in my opinion, the GOAT is somebody who has changed his game in whatever way, shape, or form. LeBron did it, Michael did it, Kobe did it, and now Steph has done it.
He should definitely be in it for his time.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But at this point right now with the playoff seedings, name them off real quick for me, Spark, because I know the Oklahoma City Thunder is number 1 in the West, I believe.
As of right now, the West is
the Rockets are number 2. Are they still number 2?
Number 1 is KC. Where did I go with number 2? Okay, we got OKC, Houston, Denver, the Lakers, Warriors, Grizzlies, and then you go down to 7 and 8 is Minnesota and the Clippers, and then Dallas and Sacramento routing out the last 10.
Honestly, the West Coast Conference, once again, is the deeper of the two. The East is very much skewed. It'll most likely just be Cleveland and Boston at the end of it, although we'll get to Milwaukee.
And the Suns are a game and a half out on Sacramento.
Are they really? So they're not even in the conversation right now.
No, but they could get into the play-in.
Well, and with Kevin Durant,
the Suns have looked horrible.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's hurt as well. I know he's dealing with an ankle injury. Booker hasn't had a good season at all. I don't want to blame Kevin because I don't think Kevin is the issue, but I think all of these teams believe that they can create or recreate what Oklahoma City had or Seattle at the time, and their big three when they had Russ, him, and James Harden. And you just can't do it. It has to be organic. It has to be something that just happens. And I have yet to see, even the times in Golden State, they still didn't look amazing. I mean, obviously they set the record for wins that one year and they won the championship. But outside of that, the meshing of the squad definitely did not work. And I don't think it's working in Phoenix either.
You think he leaves?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know where he goes at this point. He's kind of, honestly, Kevin Durant, and you chime in and tell me what you guys think, but Kevin Durant's kind of turning into the Aaron Rodgers of the NBA. You don't know where he's going to go next year. Every year it's up in the air. He's a constant talking point to whatever media organization wants to talk about him, and everybody questions his mental stability and sanity because of what he does online.
100%.
And it's honestly, and he's arguably the greatest talent at his position in his generation.
Yeah, he's one of those players that's, he has made a staple on what type of player he is. Growing up, I never seen power forwards,
Right.
6'10", just pull up and he's got the weirdest shot, but
He
he
does,
just
but it
hits it in the
works
top of
because
the
of
key.
his size.
Exactly. And he's the type of one for the early years, he was hitting shots all over, and it almost felt like it was a magnet, just like Curry. These amazing shots and the fadeaways, and I've always liked him, but I hated it after he left OKC.
That's always my biggest what if Oklahoma City was able to hold on to Kevin, Russ, and James and keep that three together throughout their entire career.
That was a great team.
I am genuinely curious what we could have gotten. That could have been a dynasty, especially with the other players that you remember on that team. Serge Ibaka was there. Jeff Green was there. Kendrick Perkins was there in his early years. Nick Collins. Like, the team was stacked. Theo Cephalosha.
That was one of my
was a
guy.
defensive lockdown.
Like, when I play those old basketball games where you can play, you could set up tournaments and play I always have to put OKC in there, because watching him, Durant and Russ and Harden, that was just insane.
And all one bad year in the playoffs losing to San Antonio would do, because, and honestly, you could have mirrored the two teams had you gotten a coach much like Popovich to coach this team in Oklahoma City. You could have had the next San Antonio.
Yeah.
You really could have. The Tony Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan aspect would have worked exactly the same way. Although at the time, James Harden was not happy that he was the sixth man. So, and rightfully so. He could outscore Theo Cephalosha. Well, he's sleeping.
Another guy that watched him bounce around, and all three of them,
right,
really
have really never been able to recreate or have anywhere near the success that they had at Oklahoma City. And I mean, the closest one is James, I would say. And I mean, Russ has individual success being the triple double king and whatnot. But at this point, the only one that's actually gotten close. Well, no, I can't even say that. Kevin won a chip. So Kevin was one without them. So I guess he would be the most successful of the group at this point.
I mean, that was Durant jumping over to Golden State, and it was just I couldn't watch that, man.
I know, still got the ring though. And again, this is coming from a Cavaliers fan. I hated it, but at least every year I knew my team was in the final.
And moving over to the East, your team is sitting on top, and they ain't going nowhere.
No, heck no.
The Celtics. I mean, a lot of the East is locked. There's some seedings that could be moved up a little bit in the last 15, 18 games. The Celtics at 2. The Knicks at 3. Pacers are 2 games up on Detroit. Detroit is 1 game up on Milwaukee. And then the final 4, which would be the Magic, Hawks, Heat, and Chicago, doesn't look like they're going to be moving around.
Look at the Central Division on the East side running.
Chicago and Miami are half a game apart, so they can swap back and forth before the play-in.
Right. And unless you guys go on a really historic losing streak at the end of the year here, I don't see the Raptors coming up and catching up to you guys to take that final spot. So, and again, I still find it incredible that Milwaukee is under the Pacers and Detroit. Kudos to JB Bickerstaff, by the way, for turning around that Detroit Pistons team, because he did it for us in Cleveland, and he's definitely doing it out there in Detroit, taking a young team and teaching them that defense is worth $1 million more than offense right now in this league.
And speaking of the Pacers, Milwaukee, they it seems like that's who they want to play in the playoffs.
The Bucks would love to see Indiana. That is a team that they've been able to beat this season. They won the season series 3-1. The Pacers just don't have anyone for Giannis. Obviously, last year he scored 64 points against them, and then we played game ball gate after the game as well. That was fun. But for years now, they just don't have an answer for Giannis.
And I mean, no one has an answer for Giannis. I have yet to find a team that has an answer for Giannis. Cleveland doesn't even have an answer for Giannis, and we have 3 7-footers. But at this point,
they got a 10-point win over the Suns last night, which was on national TV. Yes. But I was going to throw in, they broke the highest single game field goal percentage since 1998. It was just one of those nights where everything was just landing.
But see, again, it's the Pacers. They have no defense. Like, if there is any team in the NBA that can't play defense, it's the Indiana Pacers. They score 160 points, sure, but they also gave up 120 to 130 to the Wizards. That's not a good stat. And for those of you who don't understand, the Wizards are literally the worst team in basketball right now. It is not even actually, no, I shouldn't say it's not close. I think there's somebody in the West as well at the bottom. But at this point, the Wizards are the worst team in basketball, or one of the worst teams in basketball.
Talking about the Pelicans?
Pelicans, thank you. The Pelicans are also at the bottom, who just had to shelf Zion again. Again, and that's a
McCollum,
player
right?
who most likely won't be in New Orleans starting next year.
I read something like, why doesn't Zion get mentioned in what's the other dude that's always hurt?
CJ McCollum? No.
Yeah, that's
well,
his
he's
teammate.
also out with him too.
But no, the dude from Joel
Embiid. Yes.
Like
okay.
Zion never gets mentioned, but he's almost.
Zion has not actually. I have a story right here. Hold
and
on
I was so excited when he was a rookie coming in.
There it is. So Zion in his 6 seasons has missed a total. You want to take a guess?
Per year or overall?
No. Overall.
Overall.
The games he's
And
played
how many
versus
seasons?
the games. 6 seasons. 82 games a season. You're close. He's missed 258 of the games. Guess how many he's played?
Oh, damn.
214.
I was going to say the other.
214. He has missed more games than he's played in 6 seasons. Now, granted.
So he is Joel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's 1,000% Joel. But again, you have to take into account the weight situation that he was going through at the beginning of the year and the team wasn't happy about. He was also this last year he had triple doubles. He had his first triple doubles this year. He was averaging 24. He's a stud, but the guy can't stay on the court. And I don't know if it's necessarily the fact that he can't stay on the court or if he doesn't want to stay on the court for the team he's playing for.
Just laziness.
And yeah, because I mean, Brandon Ingram is the same thing. They had a team in New Orleans a couple years ago. And now it's just all falling flat on its face because they can't keep their guys on the court.
So you think it's Cleveland and OKC in the finals?
I hope so. That is my dream.
Well, of
but
course
no.
you want Cleveland in.
No, I don't think. I think Oklahoma City and Cleveland both are in the same issue, which is they're young and inexperienced. I think Cleveland is the more likely to squeeze in because they have little more experience than Oklahoma does. But Oklahoma City really does remind me of what Cleveland was last year and the year before, which was a very, very talented team led by a great point guard. But at this point, you're going to have to get through guys that have a lot more experience than you. I know first round, they're going to have to take on one of the play-in guys, which you might squeak out of the first round. Actually, we shouldn't say might. They probably will squeak out of the first round 4-1 in 5 games. But if you fall onto potentially like a Golden State or a Lakers team who are very driven, are looking really, really good, you have a really bad chance of getting upset, in my opinion.
That's what I love about the NBA playoffs is the not only the seeding, but the series.
Right.
I mean, because these series, it could be 3-0, but teams like Golden State or teams like the Lakers or even, Boston or the Cavs, you can never count out. And I'm personally, if it's not my Bulls, which obviously that would be a reach, I would say the princess or the March Madness type thing. It's not going to happen. But I would love to see Cleveland and the Lakers.
Oh, it'd be great. That would be cinema if LeBron had to go and try to win a chip from his team.
And before we go to a break, do you think the tickets would be cheaper than these wrestling events?
No, not even close. Not even close. But again, we'll get into that probably on Friday. If your favorite sports organization is pricing you and your family out of going and checking these things out, because I'm not going to lie to you, a lot of these sporting organizations, including wrestling, getting pretty dang expensive for tickets, man. And I got to look into those for June 6th as well. Oh, what? What are we doing? What's happening?
Call or text in. We are the Early Bird Special, 661-842-2000. We're also streaming live on the Early Bird Special YouTube page. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. Sometimes I wish we could play the music on the radio or on the internet. Yeah, but copyright. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Sparky, we got some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Since we've been talking about the Timberwolves, apparently the sale of the team is officially going through. Glenn Taylor has agreed to the Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez group acquiring 100% ownership of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx at the same $1.5 billion price tag the sides reached in 2021, says ESPN. Apparently, Lore and Rodriguez initially agreed to the purchase of the team from Taylor in 2021 in a three-part sale. The first two transactions went through, totaling about 36% of the teams at about $500 million planned. But in March of 2024, Taylor called off the sale when he believed that Lore and Rodriguez breached the terms of the sales agreement and missed a deadline to finalize the deal. There was a disagreement issue and potentially arbitration that has been wiped off. So it looks like the sale of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx, the WNBA team, will go through and they will have new ownership pending the NBA's ownership team and governor's board approving this.
So I'm believing that would start
The story says right now it's happening literally as we speak. So
Nice.
we should have a finalized situation here, hopefully by the end of the show. Really, in the next 20 minutes would be preferred, but I'm sure by the end of the day, they will be under new ownership and actually moving forward with whatever they have planned. So that's an interesting thought.
And speaking of money, I saw the Padres.
Yes, signed their guy.
Jackson.
Oh man, Jackson Merrill.
135 million 9-year deal extension.
Show me the money.
Wow.
Show me the money. And you know, it is worth it. Jackson Merrill is a stud. This boy's going to be one of the best Padres to ever grace that organization. Hopefully the Dodgers don't try to steal him. But at this point, I kudos to Jackson and kudos to the Padres organization. You locked up a good one. I like that pick. I like that grab. So hopefully going forward, we will see more competition out of the West, not just the Dodgers dominating everybody as they have been in the last week and a half.
And
so
while we're jumping around in sports, what about this
Ovechkin, baby. Alex is down to 4 goals, chasing the great one, potentially going to become the greatest scorer of all time in the sport of hockey.
On a record I thought was never going to be broken.
No, and a lot of people don't. But let's be fair also, and I know you've heard this from every sports show, that we aren't the ones saying it, we're just pairing it. Even if Ovechkin breaks this record that Gretzky has owned for God knows how long, Gretzky still owns the records in points, assists, and if you took away every single goal that man ever scored, he'd still have more points than anybody in NHL history. So realistically, it's a great thing for Alex. I love that for the sport of hockey. I mean, for those of you who don't follow hockey, Alex Ovechkin is probably the closest thing to Kobe Bryant that the NHL has, and then Crosby would be LeBron James, as people explain to me. But this is a great thing. This is a great sign for the sport of hockey, which is growing and quickly becoming, arguably, in my opinion, Sparky, I don't know about you, but maybe the second biggest sport in America right now. It's getting there because it's beating the NBA and it's definitely over the MLB. Let's be honest.
Well, that is not a hard.
No, it's not. But that's my point. What's the other sport besides maybe UFC?
I mean, how do you know? Do you have the list?
I don't.
Because I know F1 would be up there.
That's true. That's a possibility. I'd have to do a little more diving into this, but I'd still say hockey has to be one of the fastest growing organizations in America right now.
And I would say golf's probably dying down.
Yeah, especially with Tiger's
Tiger.
Potential, inevitable retirement coming around the corner. But I hate to say that, though. If you've been watching Tiger Woods' entire career, this is going to be one of those situations like when Shaq retired. You're going to cry probably. But at this point, I'm just saying there's not a lot of sports like hockey, and it is growing rapidly in America.
And I saw Alex he started the season 42 goals shy.
Yep. And he had a broken leg.
Yeah.
And came back and is doing this. So this is nuts.
And I mean, he's scored, I believe he's scored 12 goals in 18 games.
That would make sense.
Which is insane.
I mean, again, this guy does it on a daily. He's been doing this his entire career. It's Alex Ovechkin. If there was three guys, I should say, that I've followed from hockey, because I know very, very little about hockey outside of our own Bakersfield Condors. Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, Kane. Those are the three names that I've heard. Oh, and Jonathan Quick, since my family are massive Kings fans. They love the goalie. But at this point right now, Alex Ovechkin's the king. He most likely will break this record. He is 4 goals away from breaking the great one. And much like when records get broken, it's a time for celebration, man. That's why records are here. They're here to be broken, and you'll love to see it in sports.
We have a text, and somebody said that they had a Gretzky signed jersey. Would this be the
Really?
time to sell?
Yes, it
And
would.
usually it is when either
Something like this happens.
It's either the milestone or when they pass away. So that's
And
usually when
let's not wait for the great one to pass away.
it just
before we lose
happens. I
that.
mean, I'm a collector, so I know.
No, I get you.
If you have anything signed by Val Kilmer, this is
Yeah,
the week to
look
sell
it up.
him if you're going to sell him. But
Absolutely.
not to tarnish anything
No,
what
no,
they've
no.
done
But
in their
that
in
is
their
still really
careers.
cool. Good for you. I mean, I know his son was the coach out here at one point, right? For the Condors,
I believe
something like
so,
that?
yeah.
Or he was part of the organization, as it were.
I don't think he was a coach, but I think he was a part of the staff.
Yeah.
And I know we started off the show, and I would be I didn't hear much about it. So what's going on with Pat? I know he was bringing up a player or his girlfriend or something.
No, okay. So here's what happened. I should say the other day. I don't know exactly what day this was. I believe it was back in February. Yeah, February 26th.
Was it during an interview with Schefter or something like that?
Now, McAfee, let's set the table here. Pat McAfee, former Colts punter, probably Hall of Fame punter at some point. Probably the biggest sports analyst right now on ESPN, most popular. He's huge. He's huge, along with his band of stooges that he loves to call the Toxic Table and Tony and all those guys. They're talking to Adam Schefter. There was a rumor that was cycling around the internet off of what a social media site. I've never heard of it, but it's called Yik Yak. I've never heard of this thing, but apparently it's a social media Twitter-esque site that college kids use. And a girl at the University of Ole Miss had a rumor started about her that said that she slept with her boyfriend's father. Did not happen. It was 1000% false. And unfortunately for Pat and his band of stooges, who, again, and this is a lesson for anybody who is in the media space or anything like that, do research, make sure that you know what you're talking about. Don't just post something from Instagram because you don't know if it's true or not. And unfortunately, Pat stepped in it, as he is known to do. He cracked a joke about it because they were talking about the draft and the upcoming stuff, and Ole Miss came up because of Jackson Dart, a potential second to third round draft pick at quarterback. So the boys made a really crude and really bad joke at the girl's expense, essentially, doing all that and perpetuating this lie along with others. It was not just them. There were people out in Oklahoma on radio, the ESPN branch, that were doing the same thing that are also part of this. But this girl has now come out. Her name is Mary Kay Cornett. Mary Kate is I believe now a sophomore, but she is no longer at the University of Ole Miss because of all of this going on. Has absolutely destroyed her life.
I bet.
Has caused a public uproar, as it were, with multiple threats and letters and stuff like that coming to her dorm room. She was put on essentially the what do they call it when they send you away when you're on a legal trial with a fake identification?
Oh yeah, where they just hide you up.
Yeah, exactly. I forget the name. Tighten us up if you would like, but it really doesn't matter. She was sent away from the campus for her own safety, and is now fighting or pushing legal action against the Pat McAfee show and various others who perpetuated this lie. And essentially, as she's saying, it destroyed her life. And in a way, she's right. I mean, again, this is a example to everybody, especially on the internet. Look at your sources, please.
All those keyboard warriors.
Just because it comes from some website, if it's anything other than a credible news organization, fact check. And I don't mean credible because you say it's credible.
Yeah, or just keep your mouth shut.
And most of the time, it's better for you to keep your mouth shut. It
has
really
nothing to do
is.
with you. Keep your mouth shut.
If you have no idea, or if you think it could potentially be false, or even if it's just crazy to you, let the truth come out by itself. There's no reason for you to spread it. There's no reason for you to come out and say these things. I am a massive Pat McAfee fan. He steps in it all the time. He will most likely face libel or defamation charges for this and probably lose. He will most likely get slapped a massive fine again, because this is not the first time he's done this. And again, this was actually mentioned on the show at late February, and I was wondering what they were talking about because they did say that they were kind of in hot heat again. But this is just, it's terrible. It's a terrible situation. And also, and I don't mean to point fingers and whatnot, but they need to figure out who started said rumor, because you are just as responsible, in my opinion. Now, granted, yes, it was perpetuated by media as a lot of fake things happen. But if you are most likely a scorned, jealous freshman from Ole Miss that just hated this girl because she had the guy you wanted to take to prom or whatever the issue was, get over yourself. And I say this as a person who's had this happen to him all throughout high school and all this type of stuff.
Someone was trying to sleep with your
You're
dad?
too old for this. Oh, no, not that. I'm more saying like people spreading lies about you.
I'm just playing.
That was good, though. That was good. No, but just people spreading lies about you on the internet. One,
yeah.
if you're having lies spread about you on the internet, don't buy in. It's not worth it. Just let it go. The truth will come out eventually. Two, if you are the one spreading the rumors on the internet, go touch grass.
Yes. Do something
Do
with your life.
something other than get on the internet, because your entire I wish I had the clip of the man. I can't remember what movie it was, but just sitting there saying we're all dumber just from listening to you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was thinking the
that's
same thing.
you. That's you right now. So McAfee, unfortunately, you're going to have to take it this time. And, you know, you're at the forefront of all of this because you're the biggest one. There are multiple that are on the docket for this libel and defamation cases.
Well, I got to hear that because I was hoping that he wasn't like just throwing it out there, or if he was just.
Oh, I got the
fun
quote
with
for
it.
you. I'd play it, but it is pretty crude, and I don't want us
disgusting.
getting tied into all of it. But realistically speaking, I feel very, very bad for Mary Kate.
Yes.
My heart goes out to you. I know you'll probably never hear this, but you are supported here, and this is dumb. This was a dumb move on McAfee's part. He will most likely get bit in the ass for it. But this type of stuff needs to stop. It just needs to stop, man. Fact check yourself on the internet first.
Check
and
your
foremost.
sources.
And if you're one of these people that just wants to go around and troll people and cause problems for other people,
and what the hell is yak
man.
yak?
What yik yak? Yeah, I have no idea what yik yak is.
Well, stay away from it.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound
again,
like
I think it's
source checks
probably
anything.
just when all of the turmoil was going on with Twitter and
They had
TikTok.
to find somewhere to.
Yeah, these
to
kids have been
post.
swarming to different social media apps to obviously find something for
Yeah,
themselves.
go outside, get some fresh air.
Yeah, go touch some
Get
grass.
get
How about start a rumor out in the real world? Let's start that first. A game of
Yes.
telephone at this point would be more beneficial than more yik yak.
Well, we're going to wrap up this segment. We'll come back, preview tomorrow's show. We've got a busy, this is only the first week, but we've got some good guests coming on tomorrow and Friday that we'll talk about right after this break. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
I just played the song yesterday. Did you? I did.
And producers.
Sorry. Again, I wish I could explain this to listeners on the internet. They can't hear any of this. It's YouTube. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We're live here.
We got an exciting show tomorrow.
We do. Tell them what we got, Sparky.
It is Therapy Thursday.
It is.
Where you can get anything and everything off your chest. It doesn't have to matter. It's sports, entertainment. It could be your relationship. I don't care.
We'll give you a whole segment just to complain for 10 minutes to us, and then we'll all roast it together, and we'll just move on with
and
our
we'll
lives.
move on to have a better day. We'll also have my buddy Dan Betts, which has been a longtime friend of the Early Bird Special.
Yes.
He's got a lot going on. He owns the Well Comedy Club, the first and only full-time comedy club here in Bakersfield.
If you haven't been, you are doing yourself a massive disservice.
Yes, it is. It has grown over the, I believe, 2 or 3 years. We'll hear more.
Kenan Thompson himself has put a
Yes.
stamp on this place.
Yes, and many others. I mean, we've had, what was the big heavy blonde dude? What was Uncle?
Oh, Uncle Laser.
Uncle Laser
Uncle Laser was
stopped
with
by. We've had several good. I just went and saw Donnell Rawlings.
Dante from Last Comic Standing. He was
yes.
fantastic.
I mean, and you guys will hear other comedians coming on our
D-Ray
show.
Davis. D-Ray Davis has been
was
there
here.
multiple times.
He was hilarious. I almost cussed. Thank God I didn't. But he's also got other things. He's been a part of the. If you don't know about Mr. Beast, he's been a social media god for these kids.
The guy's my age, and he's made more money than I will ever imagine.
He's had a show on Prime that was most recent, Beast Games, which Mr. Dan Betts was a contestant on. He also has Beast Burgers or something like that.
Well, I don't know if he actually owns that anymore. I think he sold the
Which,
actual
of course, he did.
conglomerate of it to get money for it. But at this point right now, yes, he is easily one of the most wealthy people on the internet. He gives away stuff just in his videos for more attention, essentially.
Of
But
course.
it
And my son
works.
was a huge fan, so we had to find it where his pop-up kitchen was and got a Beast Burger and blah, 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 blah. And not only that, but Betts has his own tour. He just got back from the Saturday Night Live 50th annual or the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night
we gotta
Live.
talk to him about. I also want to talk to him a little about Beast Games too and how that felt. But the 50th anniversary of SNL must have been really cool to go see.
He also has some breaking news that he will explain tomorrow about the Well Comedy Club. And on top of that, he will be opening for Tom Green later this month at the Nile Theater. So he's got plenty to talk about. And then moving into to wrap up our first week on the air, we'll have a handicapper on Friday joining us on our Fantasy Friday show.
Yes, Fridays will be known as Fantasy Fridays. If you are a fan of our YouTube channel, our Wreck the Waiver Wire videos will most likely be there once football season starts, obviously. But yes, Bolt Brady and his bro at the Believe Network will be joining us on Friday. Just a little bit about him. He's a 25-year handicapper with a win percentage that puts him in the top 5% of all handicappers. So if you're looking to make some bets on the Final Four or any sporting event, you're going to want to text in, call in, and get this guy's advice because he can help you make some money, baby. But go check out his podcast on the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. That's where you'll check it out. But that's all we got for the day. Go check us out at the Early Bird Special on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. I've been Chris Burdick. That is Sparky.
Yeet.
We will be back tomorrow for Therapy Thursday.